Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. I'm glad you guys could make it. This is 17 and some change. I'm EQDES17 here to bring you my 2 cents. So I want to get some of um, the international stories done. I'm gonna go in reverse order instead of going like small talk and leading up to some of the bigger topics. I really don't have much on these larger um, issues, particularly the largest, which is the Russia and Ukraine conflict. Um, I just want to touch on it just because it is one of like the biggest news stories in the cycle. Um, it's kind of big internationally and stuff like that. The more peace, the better. The more countries that can stop fighting with each other. Uh, that means the less people are dying, which is, first and foremost of importance. But it also means that there's economic prosperity, more economic prosperity than what could be had during a war for everybody. They don't have to um, when they're shipping internationally, they don't have to have a buffer to make up for some of the costs that they're losing in war efforts, right? They're able to contribute better to the global economy when they're not in war, and you reopen up tourism and stuff like that. So whatever countries are in war are countries that you can't visit, and um, we have gotten very close at in my lifetime. In my lifetime, we have been very close to, comparatively speaking, to being in a situation where you can, as a Westerner or an Easterner or a Northerner, like you can, or a Southerner, like you can travel anywhere as a tourist around the globe. Like we've been getting closer and closer to that, and now I understand it might never be 100%. You might always have pockets of violence, and the same way you do in a state, the same way you do in a city or even in a household. But the closer we can move towards world peace and um, the better we be, clearly. Um, as far as this individual conflict is concerned, you know, Trump brought in Putin. They met in Alaska to talk on Friday, turned around, met with Zelensky on Monday, met with all the European leaders the same day, and actually they were together as well. And I watched the press conference with Putin, and nothing of substance was said there. It was just platitudes, and I also watched the peace summit where all the leaders kind of used the same buzzwords. I'm trying to remember what the main buzzword was. They went in a circle, and um, it was basically long-term insured protection for the Ukrainians. Um, but nothing logistical, nothing that outside of that. And just with me, I mean, I don't want to be a pessimist, and if we get a breaking headline like shortly after this podcast drops that says, "Oh, a peace agreement has been reached," then that's great. But it's just something about Putin just feels like uh diplomatic. Yeah, you're gonna get that, but it just feels like um lip service, right? It just seems like he's just saying nice things just to say nice things. He's participating in the talks to just to show uh, that he's participating in the talks. And this isn't. I don't have any facts on this. This is just what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing just on the surface level. I know a lot of details, you can't really share, especially about war and stuff like that. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if all these talks and all these negotiations and all this ends in absolutely nothing. If nothing gets solved. In 2 weeks from now, we're asking, oh, well, what the hell, what happened to the peace talks? A month from now, it's like everything, like everybody forgot that there even were peace talks, because these are the types of things that, the longer they stew, the sometimes the less likely a deal is to be made. So I'm hoping for a deal, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's just playing like he's just playing. He ain't trying to do nothing. um that's international. um as far as national news is concerned, one headline that kind of caught my attention was just it said Democrats rip up permission slips um, in regards to, I don't, was it the House um, or Congress? They, I guess they had left for a couple of weeks during um, deliberation on uh, re redistributing um, of the state's electorals, and they in protest they had left for a couple of weeks, and those talks had stalled. Um, so the Republican leader suggested or implemented a system where these Democrats would be required to sign essentially permissions of leave, and they would be escorted and followed by a police presence to make sure that they come back. It sounded kind of different. It sounded kind of different. And it sounds silly. It sounds silly. The whole thing sounds silly from both sides. The fact that you could think that you could, you know, the fact that you would need to do something like that, or think it's any way appropriate to do something like that, and then on the Democrat side, the tearing it up like petulant children. Like a lot of times, um, politics is nasty, man, and it's it's unfortunate because you need the tension between both sides, the right and the left, to have um, you need that tension to exist. But I just would hope it would be, less nasty. Um, I found myself leaning more towards the Republican side in the past 5 years, especially since COVID. Um, I feel like COVID, um, I wasn't on board with a lot of the mandates. I think that a lot of the mandates were overstepping. Um, I did not like how um, I felt the left was over fear mongering in regards to the pandemic, and they took away freedoms. I thought they had no right taken away. I did not appreciate what happened with Antifa and BLM and everything that went down in the summer in regards to um, the uncontained riots. To watch, cities, blocks go up in flames, and just to see absolute utter chaos in many major cities. That didn't sit well with me in any way, shape, or form. I'm sick and tired of their cultural Marxism. Um, and so I've been leaning towards the right um, pretty heavily the past 5 years or so. But sometimes I still find myself saying, well, you don't want either side to be completely obliterated. You don't want either side to just be like shut out altogether, because like there's things on the right that I don't agree with. Like, I understand their arguments against marijuana and stuff like that, but I don't want them to uh treat it like it's a bad thing. Even if you do, like, y'all know I mess with bud. Like, um so I don't like when they hate on weed, and I don't like when they minimalize mental health. Um, I don't like when they talk about like strict parenting, or they like poo-poo the idea of soft parenting, or whatever it's called nowadays, nice parenting or whatever it's called. Um, you know, and in most topics, like both the right and the left are kind of talking past each other, and they're just talking like by the main point. They're not, they're saying like one side will say like their points or their objections, the other side will say their points and their objections, but very rarely do they acknowledge the parts of agreement, or acknowledge the good points in the other person and the other side's argument. So I don't know. I think both sides are essential, and I wish it was less contentious. And maybe a third party is would be nice. Not an independent party, maybe a middle party. Like a yellow. Give them like a yellow. And then you can have left, right, and center party, like a centrist party, where depending on who the representatives are, they share from the left and the right. They're more central. Oh, just an idea. Um, so as far as me and you and like normal people's lives are concerned, like unless you're an activist or a you know big fan of politics or whatever, then enjoy the first segment, and thinking on left versus right, and stuff like that. But um I'm gonna start talking about like normal stuff now. So like normal people stuff. Um I I'm just trying to think, like, I got three topics that I'm gonna touch on. I'm just trying to think like which one I'm gonna bring up next. Um I'll do, you know, I'll do the elephant, and then I'll leave off on a couple of the um smaller points. So I'll do the elephant. I was doing a I just recently was involved in and I'm still in the middle of it, but like I started the car buying experience recently. It's like the first car that I'm trying to buy in like 13 years. My last one I financed from a dealership, and I had a co-signer that had really good credit. They made a scene on the sales floor and kind of blew up on the dealer, and that ended up getting me like a ridiculously low interest rate. Because back then they came to him with exorbitant numbers and he flipped out. So they called him and they gave him like this freaking deal that you could just not like ignore. And that's the thing, like, and that kind of does segue me in nicely into like these people. I broke up the car buying experience into like four different options, right? Four levels. At the high level, you have leasing or financing from uh, brand new from a dealership, and then then a level below that, you have um, moderately used cars. So on the first one, you can look realistically. We're not talking about like luxury superhero. We're talking about like normal people. Um, let's say 20-25K on that dealership level. New car. If you're doing like a Mazda or a Mitsubishi or a Nissan or something like that, call it around 20-25K for something new. And then, then you get to like the used dealers and they're giving you deals like a 10-year-old car between 7K to 13K, and then you got like the real the really old cars, like mid 2000s, where you could get for a few $1,000 from a small time dealer, used dealer. Um, and then you got like Marketplace, Facebook, and Craigslist, where you can get cars for like under 3K. And each one of these levels has their own issues. So at the Marketplace, it's crazy. There's always like a trade-off when it comes to buying a car nowadays. It's one of the most stressful purchases and biggest purchases that we as consumers make, and it's just it's not set up for us to win. There's always some sort of compromise. You're compromising on the price, you're compromising on the look, you're compromising on the features, you're compromising on the longevity. You're always taking some kind of risk, some kind of gamble. You don't know if the car is gonna break and stuff like that. So it's not, it's not like buying a pencil where you can kind of find the perfect pencil and not be sacrificing anything. It's hard to find the perfect deal for a car, extremely hard, and you can spend freaking you run and sometimes you're working against time too, right? So you can't just sit there for like a year doing deep research and negotiations and trying to find something absolutely perfect, because a lot of times you're on the clock when you're trying to get a vehicle, and they got you kind of set up. And so as far as the low level is concerned, like I don't really marketplace, Facebook, like hey, you'll find some honest, great people there. But it's a gamble. You don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know whether you can trust them or not. Then you got to be like, oh, get me documents, get me Carfax. They don't do. It's not official. Like, there's nothing official there. It's like, yeah, here, it's a $2,000 car, dude. Like, take your gamble. You know what I'm saying? Like, trust me, it works, bro. And so I don't know the marketplace. It's sketchy. It's um I mean, I've had success selling like lower ticket items and stuff like that, but I wouldn't buy a car from Marketplace. I'd be hard pressed to buy a car from Marketplace. Let's put it that way. I so I wouldn't do them. I ended up settling on um one of the cheaper like local dealers. He was I guess all right, so I eliminated the bottom one. Let me hit the second level just so I can keep it in chronological order in regards to how how my journey has gone in relation to trying to buy a car. So I eliminate Facebook, eliminate Marketplace. I saw a used car. Um, it was in that 10K range, and I spoke to the dealer, and at first he told me that they don't do financing. But after we talked a little bit, he magically found like some financier. He's like, actually, I know this one guy. If things look good, and he wouldn't budge on the price at all. Um, that didn't work out. They wanted a much higher down payment than what I was willing to give. They wanted like three times the amount that I was willing to give. I went to for a down payment, which they wanted like half the cost of the car in a down payment. I'm like, no, that defeats the purpose. Like Mr. Ramsey on YouTube is really high on Dave Ramsey on YouTube is really high on like not getting into debt and stuff like that. And I can't argue with him. He's a freaking millionaire. I'm a freaking nobody. But I've always heard from smart people that one should use debt to their advantage. And that's the way that I operate. If I can afford the debt and if I can carry the debt and it brings me it buys me time, it buys me convenience, and I can use the thing that I put, like for example, like I'll buy gold on debt all day because now the gold is gaining money and the debt is disappearing. And you know um, you can buy a piece of gold on a loan and then flip it in 6 months and sometimes be up just because of the way gold rised and stuff like that. So I'm not somebody who's like, no, keep me away from debt at all costs. It's like it's cool. Like you put debts on one side and then assets on the other side, and you'll always watch this one decrease and you'll always watch this one increase. It's really freaking cool. So um as long as your assets outweigh your debt and you're able to pay and you have a job and you're able to pay off these debts and they're not crippling and stuff like that, then I use it to my advantage. But I'm not paying the guy. He didn't. It was I didn't get the good vibes. You know what I mean? I got the dealership vibe, and. I'm not paying half of a ticket price for. a down payment like that. That defeats the purpose. And it didn't work out. It was I didn't like that. And then and it took 14 freaking points off my credit score on a hard inquiry. Like that didn't make me happy. Um so I'm like, all right, let me go to like a big box dealer. Let me go to like an official place and try to get like a brand new lease. Then I don't have to worry about like cars breaking down. I get something new. I'm asking around. People are telling me, approximately they paid approximately like 300 for their lease, and I'm like, all right, 300 for a brand new car that I don't have to worry about. I can kind of hack that, but like I want to get in the twos. You know what I mean? I go to I see these advertisements online. Giving the down payment that they require was a little bit more than what I wanted to give, but you got lease advertisements on the internet, 199, 249, 299. You know what I'm saying? And so I went in there. I wanted to be in the twos. I wanted whatever monthly payment I had to have a two on it. And you go to these places and they have they're interesting. They're so interesting. It's a system designed to funnel consumers into. I don't know why I thought otherwise. A lot of times I put trust in certain large companies. I think I've talked about it here before, like how I like H&R Block, or I like TurboTax, and I like LegalZoom, and I like these like companies that deal with complex issues as their business model. Um, but buying a car shouldn't be that complex, and they make it complex on purpose. And they have everything set up. It's so theatrical, and it's one of those places, kind of like the doctor's office, where I step in and I'm like, okay, this entire environment is designed for me to feel, for you as a consumer to feel powerless, to feel um, you're funneled into a sale, and these sales reps come on you know, with their phony smiles. Like, why are you smiling at me? Why are you happy to see me? Like, you don't know me from a hole in the wall. You're smiling at me. Why? Because there's dollar signs above my head. Like, what are you so happy about? What I mean? You're not that happy. You're not gonna convince me that you're that happy to see a stranger. Hey, how's it going? Haha. Shut the fuck up. And so they're like, go for a test drive, whatever. I told the dude I was in sales for over a decade. So to his credit, he wasn't really trying any salesman shit. Um, he was a lot younger than me. Um, and he was kind of just letting me kind of lead the interaction, but there was still some subtleties. I could still see the subtleties of his salesmanness. Finish the test drive. They pull up. They pull the car up like right to the curb, like right in front of the window where we're sitting. So it looks like, all right, look, this one's on deck. Like, ooh, all psychological manipulation and shit. And then yeah, all right, yeah, blah blah. Let's run some numbers. Come back like $10 billion a month, like in a zillion dollars a fucking month, and It's like $500-600 and shit like that. And I'm like, yeah, nah, a little bit too much, right? And then it's funny, like they do this thing where they like talk to their manager. At every part of the negotiation, they have to go back and talk to their manager. I don't know if they really need to talk to their manager or if they do it as like a ploy, just to get you to stop negotiating back. If you know that every time you do a counter offer, they have to leave to talk to their manager for 5-10 minutes, maybe you're gonna hesitate a little bit more to do a counter offer. I do a counter, I'm like, nah, dude, it has to have a two in it. Dude comes back 5-10 minutes later, payment has a three in it. It's like 320 or some shit like that. He's like, yeah, well, I got you to two, but after the taxes, it comes out to like 320. He gives me a sheet that has like a breakdown of like what I'm paying for and stuff like that, MSRP. They had freaking document fees were $700. Um, but it's it looks incomplete, right? It doesn't. So I'm like, what's the interest rate on this? Like, it's a lease. There is no interest. I'm like, all right, well, I know because I talked to Chat GPT that when you say there's no interest, that's a lie. Like, it's just not called an interest rate. It's called a money factor, and that's on a lease. And so to lie and say, "Oh, there is no interest rate on leases," that's a half lie, right? And then I asked him what the money factor is. He said I didn't. He doesn't know. He's like, "Oh, I don't know." So I asked him again. I'm like, "It's pretty concerning that you don't have that like available." And so he goes back and talks to his manager, gets the number, and of course it was exorbitant, right? It was higher than what it should be by a couple percent. And so they can make their little monies and stuff like that. And it doesn't the sheet didn't tell me like what the residual was. How much am I actually paying for? It says MSRP 23,000 minus 1,000 for whatever the hell they minus 1,000 for, but it doesn't say like what I'm actually paying. It doesn't what I'm actually paying over what amount of time, and it was it was incomplete. And I was like, no, I'm not now. Now I'm not feeling it anymore. Now I'm insulted. I feel I just I'm not happy anymore. I'm not trying to buy anything anymore. And so like I tell the guy that, and the manager comes over, he starts making like football jokes, like, oh, tries talking to me about football and stuff like that. He was pretty cool. He had a cool like persona. I engaged with him a little bit and I told him, I came in here ready to buy, and now I'm just not feeling it anymore. I'm just not. And I'll take your offer and I'll sleep on it, and maybe I'll come back. I mean, I forget to mention to you guys that they tried switching the car on me like halfway through the deal. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe the first car that we were looking at was too expensive, but switch the car, don't give me all the info. You know, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. There's a reason I left sales, and that's pretty much the reason. It's just so gross, man. I talk about politics being gross, like sales are freaking gross too. Um, and it's unfortunate because I'm gonna have to turn around, in the next few days and start making campaigns for some of my products and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, dog. It's just like The dude's face went freaking deadpan when I started having when I started feeling like I'm not gonna buy that day. That's when the dealer's face went deadpan. I'm like, yo, oh, there we go. The proverbial mask slips, eh? Um, because now your commission's threatened, and so now you're mad. But anyways, I went looking around more on the internet, and then I found this dealership that offers financing for kind of like um a little bit older cars and stuff like that. Um, less than 10K. And um, I met with him, and he tried negotiating and stuff like that, but um, he didn't seem like uh, a slime. Um, I got to watch him work and interact with other people for like half an hour. He seemed like a hard-working hustler, but there was honesty underneath there. Like he wasn't somebody who was trying to screw people and nickel and dime people and hide things from people. And he was giving me information, and he was like it he made it feel a lot more like, yeah, like I want you to get a car that you're not gonna like. I want this car buying experience to work for my customers as well as it works for me, because I want them to come back and I want them to give me good referrals, and I'm just not a screwer in my heart of hearts. Like, I actually found a decent person. Like, I actually found a decent car dealer, and so we're making a deal. So I'm gonna buy that car from him, and I'm probably going to buy my next car from him and the car after that from him. And if I have kids, I'll probably refer my kids to him and stuff like that. And it's amazing how just a little bit of not non-selfishness can go a long way, or a little bit of just stop trying to pinch the penny so hard. Stop trying to screw people. Stop trying to be performative. Stop trying to, smoke and mirrors with people and shit like that. When I used to work at T-Mobile, my manager used to call it and it's not just there. Everybody says it. They say it in the card world and stuff. They call it the bells and whistles. It's like, oh, you get all the bells and whistles. And I'm just like, shut up. Like, stop, man, stop. Just be honest, just be fair. Tell you the consumer exactly what they're getting, break it down for them. And, I need a new cell phone, so I'm gonna go buy a new cell phone. But it does remind me of when I was selling cell phones, and I was being told, I mentioned this in one of my earlier episodes, I was being told, be a shark, like we used to have, I'm pretty sure I said this too, but we used to have like a conversion tracker, meaning every customer that walked uh, over the mat in the entrance of the door would get counted by a tracker up above. And we would have a formula like out of so many people that walked into the store, how many people got sold a phone. And I'm like, this is heinous, this is reprehensible. You're literally looking at people as numbers based on this model, and there's no way around it. That's the exact that's exactly what you're doing. You're literally bringing people down to numbers. And it was my own local community. It's my own local community. They're trying to make me pedal. phones that cost $1,200 that cost $200 to make. We're selling them for $1,200 to the freaking to these old people, or to like young kids who like don't know any better because they just see this shit on TikTok, and so they're making their parents pay like instead of us being like, yo, there's really not that much there's like no difference between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 12 for like what you're gonna do. Like you don't need to spend that $1,000. You can spend like $400, get the iPhone 10, and if you put the right case, nobody's even gonna know. Like, whatever, man, whatever. No, no, just push it, pedal it, push it, pedal it. Like, whatever. That's sales for you, right? So just know when I sell my stuff, I'm not I'm trying to sell value. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to trick nobody, nothing like that. So, um. I guess the last thing that I'll wrap up with is kind of like a question to you. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. I was shopping for groceries yesterday, and I'm going to do the same today, once I wrap up this podcast. And I was just thinking, like, for single individuals, is it easier, um, because this is what I found myself into. I used to buy wholesale, like I used to buy groceries for like 2 weeks at a time, but now I find myself just buying small amounts every day or two, mainly because I ride a motorcycle, so I can only carry like what's in my backpack. Um, but I'm thinking like for like everybody else, for like other Americans, how common is that? Like, if you're single, do you buy smaller portions? Do you like shop like do you get groceries like every day or every other day? That's kind of what I'm wondering. I feel like it's efficient. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but sometimes you need shit to get you out of the house. You need stuff to do so that you don't stay in the house and stuff like that. Yeah, work obviously and stuff, but on your days off even too. But yeah, so I feel like that was a decent 42 minutes, and I hope you guys, thank you guys for tuning in and for listening and for spending your time here. Um, Hopefully everything goes well for you, and you have a good week and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and you know hopefully, yeah, I'll see you guys next week. You know, yeah, God willing, we'll do this again, same time, same place. All right, goodbye.